Hey, finally, in 1980s news per CNN, this Star Wars figure broke an auction record. So on May 31st of this year, oh, wait a second here. What did we do? Okay. On May 31st this year, a Star Wars Boba Fett action figure which was released in 1979, and this one I'm talking about. So a Star Wars Boba Fett action figure, which was released in 1979, which was still in the original package, which would we say that on card? I think we say that, right, John? The collectors say.
Okay.
Carded, yep.
It was carded. Sold for $84,000. But that is a pittance, it turns out, when compared to the fee fetched by the Boba Fett that never was. By the way, I do have my Boba.
It was. It just
Sort of. Here's my Boba.
turn it around.
Now this is doesn't have the J slot is just plasticed over. No actual little thing there. But the Fett that I'm referring to, which was never officially released in stores, has become the most valuable vintage toy ever sold at auction. Of course, we're talking about the rocket-firing Boba Fett action figure, which is modeled after the bounty hunter. It was purchased in Dallas by an anonymous buyer. Now, why do they always hide who they are when they do these things, right? People spend like a shitload of money on toys, and then they're like, I don't want anybody to know.
Okay, I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah,
because if you know where that expensive toy is and you find out where I live, two and two together.
Oh,
true.
Is that what it is? You're okay. Oh, wow.
That's why people that win the lottery don't announce that they won the lottery because, well, for slightly different reasons. People come out of the woodwork, but
yes.
That's what I thought. Suddenly you have a lot more cousins than you realize.
Well, it's possible, right? But you can't give them that toy and share it. But certainly someone nefarious could go, well, if you bought it, if it's not in a safe deposit box, and you're not going to buy it and put it in a box, it's going to be on display in your house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like maybe my most expensive single thing is that ET cartridge that was dug out of the Alamogordo Desert from the burial in '83. I paid $1,000 for it. Is it in a box?
Wow.
Hell no. It is framed on the wall.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's in your console.
No.
I finished that thing.
So when you spend that kind of money on a collectible, that's a trophy. That's not buried in the closet. So it'd be easy to come, break in your house and gink.
So this is like the opposite of the lottery. For the lottery, all these people show up, right? For this, there's, a few, like you said, nefarious. There's somebody who's going to target that toy.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay.
There's always somebody.
I get it then. Yeah, I get it. Well, this gentleman from, actually, I don't know if it's a gentleman. Could be, I'm assuming it's a gentleman because the article I read says most of them are men.
Yes.
And that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? But this anonymous buyer paid $525,000, according to Heritage Auctions. It dethroned Barbie from the #1 spot she had held since 2010 when a version of the iconic doll, this is Boba Fett with the rocket firing beat in a Barbie that had a necklace made of real diamonds.
Right. Intrinsic value outside of the Barbie.
Yeah.
But Boba Fett is just Boba Fett, except you can swallow the rocket. No.
The Barbie only sold for $302,000, Yeah, the Rocket Fett, as it's sometimes called, was part of a mail-away promotion from American toy maker Kenner, which had sold popular toys from properties like Star Wars and Batman. I loved mail-aways, right? That was the most thrilling thing when they did those.
Yeah.
In part, just because I loved getting mail as a kid. So I would write to anybody who I think would write me back. But if you got written back and a toy came with it, a Star Wars toy?
Yeah. Yeah. Over on Retro Days YouTube channel, they did a great piece on celebrating yesteryear about the excitement of mail-aways and how that mailbox was like magic, waiting for it and getting something. Even if it was just a letter that had something in it, you'd be like, it's for me. It's not for my parents, not for anybody else. I sent away for it. I got it. And it's going to be full of goofy stuff. It's a Kool-Aid points redemption and who knows what, a sticker, but it's mine. It's awesome.
The only thing that I didn't like about the Star Wars mail-aways is I had to cut the card. Because I like to keep
Proof of
those.
purchase.
I was keeping all the cards because I thought it was like a cool little poster almost. The picture and everything. But anyway, I have a Zuckus because of a mail-away. I think I have somebody else too as a mail-away. But Zuckus, I think you could only get as a mail-away. Or is it for LOM? He's the one that. Oh, you don't know Star Wars very well. He's one of the bounty hunters.
Which one? Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, bounty hunter.
Gotcha.
Or maybe it was 4 LOM. Huh. Anyway, one of the bounty hunters. You can only get it from mail away, but I have him still. Anyway, so there you got this Boba Fett, but they advertised they were going to do this rocket launching Boba Fett if you did a mail-in. But Kenner ultimately decided to attach the plastic rocket onto the toy because it posed a choking hazard to children.
Yes.
Yep.
And ultimately, when kids received their Boba Fett from this mail away, it had a note that explained why the change had occurred. Turns out that Kenner backed off releasing the missile-firing Fett after reports of another rocket shooting from a large, soon-to-be large, science fiction franchise, certainly not outdoing Star Wars, posed a choking hazard. I'm talking about Battlestar Galactica.
Yes. Yep.
Which, by the way, George Lucas sued them as soon as they were working on that. He's like, you stole all my shit.
Yep.
The gall of George Lucas to say someone stole ideas from him.
We've got a vintage toy store here in town, and they have a boxed Cylon Raider that has the firing rockets.
Okay.
So they were released. That's not like those are super rare.
Yeah, those came out.
Having the rockets is what's super rare because they're not permanently attached. They're spring loaded and designed to fly across the room and behind the couch.
I think it was my Micronauts that had rocket firing things, and they had fists that could shoot. You lost that shit like the second or third time you used it.
Yep.
And when I was a kid, I really imagined, like, is there like a black hole or portal or something? As I know it went under this couch, but now I removed all the furniture. It's gone.
Yep.
It's kind of crazy.
Probably half of my friends who had the big 2-foot Godzilla with the firing fist did not have the fist anymore. It was
That's a big fist.
I know. It's like a baseball. It's enormous, but it's gone. It's probably out in the yard somewhere under a tree.
Well, with regard to the Battlestar Galactica toy, in September of 1978, the show debuted on TV across U.S., becoming an overnight hit. And Mattel had already witnessed by then the success that Kenner had with their toy line. And so they snatched up the licensing for this TV show and got to work designing a series of Battlestar Galactica spaceships that fired spring-loaded missiles.
Awesome.
The toys flew off the shelves that season, very popular. On December 8th, 1978, however, their troubles with the toy came to light when the Consumer Products Safety Commission announced that there had been 3 formal reports of children inhaling or swallowing the toy missiles. Although John, you make me think. Because the toys had passed safety regulations at the time. What are those tests like? All right, hey, George or Bob. Hey, Bob, just stand still for a second. Hang on.
Yeah. Open your mouth. I'm gonna try to shoot this rocket in your face.
Okay.
See if you swallow it.
Yeah. So at the time, Mattel agreed to put warning stickers on existing inventory to warn parents and children of this potential danger. Yeah. But that wasn't the end, because on December 25th, 1978, a 4-year-old named Robert Jeffrey Warren was playing with a Cylon Raider ship when the missile discharged into his mouth and got stuck in his larynx. And unfortunately, just a few days later, he died of injuries he suffered.
Oh, man.
As a result, according to Kenner engineer Jacob Miles, he said, quote, projectiles were always touchy subjects, but when Battlestar Galactica had their issues, we immediately just shut it down and destroyed everything. End quote. So then if they destroyed everything, how did these get out? Well, some employees held on to some of the products, and they've been sort of bandied about and passed around, and really enthusiastic collectors have tracked down former employees or relatives of a former employee to try to find them. Toy dealer Brian Ratchfall, who represented the seller in Heritage Auction, estimates there's about 100 of these models in various types in circulation among the vintage toy collectors and hobbyists. Look,
that's the thing with being a collector. If you're a collector, you want to have everything. The problem is, as you approach having everything, your definition of everything gradually expands. You're like, oh, well, initially everything didn't mean variants. Now I guess I don't have the one with the pink jacket instead of the red jacket. So I want that variant.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
there's the one that's on the refreshed card, not the old card. You start to want more, and finally you run out of those things. And it's just those grail items, of which there are only 2 or 3 in the world, that can satisfy your new maximum definition of everything. There's your value.
I was looking up the value of Star Wars action figures because I have some of the original ones. Okay, there's a couple more, but so here, Han Solo, I discovered today, there's a small head version and a big head version. I had no idea. And little Yoda here, who has all his parts, I'd like to point out, he's got his belt and his cane and his snake. I did not know there was a variant that had Pac-Man eyes.
I didn't know that either.
Astonished, yes. So
well, now I need it.
This one does not have Pac-Man eyes.
There are lots of variants of the various figures due to different, being manufactured at different times, or different vendors who manufactured them for Kenner, who did them slightly differently from another one, or paint. The paint dye they had, this one, they didn't have enough. They got to remake another thing, and it's slightly different than the. Now, look, I'm going to tell you, this is just an aside for us all in the show here, right? I don't know if I'm going to keep this in here, but
Oh boy.
I'm a kid, I'm a 3rd grader, and I make a lot of crash jokes, okay? So maybe we could just say this as a fact. Now, look, it's been a long time since a child passed away. I'm really sorry to hear that. That's horrible. That's horrible.
Yes.
But what disturbs me is what is purportedly from the lawsuit from his parents against Mattel at the time. So this would be a document that was drafted by their attorneys when suing Mattel, right? This is according to Star Wars Archive. So it looks like a copy of a court document.
Okay.
So this is part of their complaint. The toy is shaped...
Oh, no.
I'll read you the whole thing here.
Okay.
The trigger mechanism on the toy is too close in proximity to the actual loading area. So where you load the thing, the trigger, so you're loading the rocket, it's right near the trigger.
Right.
So small children are almost required to put their hand or finger over the trigger mechanism while attempting to load the toy. So you're going to create an accident by while you're loading it, just fire it. Right? Okay. Also, the toy is shaped in such a fashion as to be very similar to a penis, which almost beckons small children to put the toy in their mouth.
What?
I hope this attorney's in jail. He's up to some shit.
What?
And he's been a long time. But...
Oh.
I could see him reading that in court. And they're like, what, is it just me? Not you too? No, just me. Okay.
Beckons?
Beckons? Yeah, arrest that attorney. And since the trigger mechanism is too close in proximity to the loading area, the trigger mechanism is usually hit by the children's teeth and the missile is expelled. I couldn't have said banana, popsicle. I mean, things kids actually would want to.
Hot dog,
anything.
I can. Oh.
So, and even look, just say wiener and leave it ambiguous. You could do that.
Asterisk or footnote. Let's see at the bottom here. Intentionally left ambiguous. Okay.
Everybody wins, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So look, as John alluded to just a moment ago, the market for these things is driven by nostalgia. So ultimately, the purchasers are going to decide what these things are worth. Unlike talking about theater tickets, where they're set based on expenses. But so it's how you feel for this thing nostalgically, but also then it comes down to also, like John said, because he's an expert in this, the quality of it and the rarity. If every Boba Fett was carded, is still carded today, they wouldn't be worth that much.
That's right.
So you need that combination.
Condition. It's like location in real estate.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't care what it is, what kind of shape's it in. You don't buy anything at a vintage thing unless you go, is it in a box? Can I open the box? If it's never been opened, well, hallelujah. That's great. Now, what's the condition of the outside of the box? Still in shrink wrap? Not in shrink wrap? Condition. Yeah.
And John, as the official collector of the show, I wanted to ask you to the veracity of this statement. I saw this article pointed out that, look, well, first of all, the article didn't need to point this out. Our show is in part based on the fact that nostalgia, or celebrating nostalgia, being reflective in this way, brings joy. You have a certain level of, dopamine and these pleasurable feelings.
Yeah.
So some experts, according to this article, suggest that even though collecting was already, on the rise in the last several years, that the pandemic was a catalyst for adult mainstream interest in toys because of the fact that they could capture these things from their youth. That would trigger a sense of, safety, wonder, joy that they didn't otherwise have because they're terrified of dying because of some, mysterious virus. At the time.
I could see that.
Did you purchase more during the pandemic?
Yeah, probably a little. I did go bananas, but I mean, look, you're working from home all the time. And especially I used to be on the road, like not even at home or in an office. So I was now super cabin fever, because not only am I not in an office, I'm in my house and not even on the road, so you have more time to browse eBay. You have more time to, when you're supposed to be doing work, that kind of thing. So I might have picked up 4 or 5 extra things that I might not have picked up had I been busier or not thinking about that in the pandemic. Sure.
Yep. Yep.
And it probably won't surprise you because we sort of alluded to this already, but now I guess that surprised me a little bit. Adults are the most lucrative consumer of toys. At this time in our history, they beat out preschoolers.
It's not volume. It's net.
Yeah, there you go.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you're looking at volume, the toddlers
I didn't consider that.
are getting the $3 toys. But
that makes a lot more sense.
Exactly.
Boba Fett just pulled in $500,000, so I'm guessing you're willing to pay more. Plus, there's this market, to your point, there's now a market of toys that aren't made for kids at all.
Sure.
These premium figures that they don't go to toy stores. They go to comic book shops. They go to conventions only. It's like, oh, well, this is a premium Dalsim from Street Fighter 2, and he's got this outfit on, and 744 points of articulation, and 12 extra sets of hands. And kids don't want all that. They want the guys that they can go, yay, I'm fighting. We want guys we can pose and put in the glass cases. And there's a whole other branch of toy manufacturing now that caters to people willing to spend it for the higher end. Yeah.
I do see some of those hot toys that I'm lusting after. I would never spend the hundreds of dollars for them just to have it sit on a shelf, but I get the allure because of the detail. Yeah.
Right as you said, hot toys, Chad typed in hot toys. And
is that right?
So what is this? What is hot toys?
It's captioning.
Mondo. Yeah.
Oh, hot toys and Mondo. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the in the first quarter of 2024, those 18 and older spent more than $1.6 billion on toys for themselves, according to a report by Circana.
Wow.
I thought this was interesting. They said nearly half of adults who bought a toy for themselves in the past 12 months cited enjoyment and collecting as their motivation, but also socialization. What does that mean?
That caught my attention too. Maybe they're getting together with their friends and
40-year-olds having play dates.
If I had to guess, it's trophy parades. It's look.
What do you mean?
It's look.
Now
I have it.
Sure.
I get to show you what I got. I post it on social, and you can put a little heart next to it, and look, that's a social interaction. Look, this I'm not interesting. This is look what I got and you don't have.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, that's where the socialization comes in because you can parade that around and look what I was able to score. Look at my pickup. Look what I finally got one, and everyone is jealous. And you're like, they're not jealous of you. They're jealous of that toy, but it feels like it's you a little bit because you have it.
Yeah. And as a counterexample to the fact that nostalgia could drive the demand or the price for these things, this article from CNN warns that Beanie Babies as a caution, or provides Beanie Babies as a cautionary tale, because they say Beanie Babies were actually manufactured to be collected.
Right.
In fact, they would only make a certain number of types of animals. They would discontinue certain ones without any particular motivation, and because they were made to be collectible and collected almost immediately, because folks were like, "This is a market." They had no nostalgic value. You didn't have people hunting them down 20 years later. They were buying them as they came out.
Yeah.
And so interest plummeted a few years later, and the value of the dolls or stuffed animals followed.
Yeah. And will you talk about how you would save your cards because you thought they were nice to have, or of course you didn't keep it on the card because you want to play with the toy. The Beanie Babies, at many places where you'd pick up Beanie Babies, Hallmarks, I remember specifically, they already came with that hard acrylic shell around the paper tag.
Right.
Because
Yes.
they knew you wanted to keep it pristine. And if the tag was bent, well, they wouldn't sell off the shelf because people weren't ripping them off and throwing them in the trash. So they came pre-protected from the stores. Whereas today, you can buy an action figure, you want to keep it, or maybe I buy an old Atari game or something. I have to get one of those protective boxes to put it in.
Yeah.
No, this market knew what it was. It pre-protected the items for investors because they knew they wanted to keep it pristine, the condition.
Huh. That's so interesting. The backs of my Star Wars toys, the cards were not safe from me because
Oh, you checked them off.
well, no, here's what I did. I'd forgotten that I did this, but I rediscovered it during the pandemic. I cut out, you know how they show on the back of the card, here you can get all these other figures,
Yeah,
right?
I love those
So
pictures.
I cut out each of the little teeny tiny action figures and I pretended that they were like trading cards for my dolls.
Oh,
That's cool. I like
that's a neat idea.
them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I like that. That's
Not
awesome. Yeah.
Not safe from me.
I did. I do have a couple of my cards left over for some figures, and I did the ones that had the check boxes. Collect them all. I did have little pencil, like
so
I
you
penciled in the
were-
ones I had,
Mhm.
which were most
yeah.
of them by then.
Oh.
Let's catch up on some comments here. Karen said, my brother got a mail order Serpentor from G.I. Joe once. Marcus says that 1977's red shag carpet was not a friend of the Viper missiles. Yeah. Jeez. I think you unlocked a memory for me. We had something similar like that where we had a type of carpet where toys would get lost, like Legos would get lost in. You'd find them eventually, but not the way you wanted.
No.
Chad says he had the Viper as a kid. CD Arcade says, I think I bought more Steam games during the pandemic. Yeah. We definitely played more video games during the pandemic.
Yeah, video gaming was a market that did great, that unexpectedly, because people were at home looking for entertainment, and it was entertainment in your house. Yeah, video game stores did well.
Yeah.
And Miss So says, I wasted so much money on games the first 2 years of the pandemic. Wasted? Come on, be easy on yourself.
Right.
Brought you joy.
No.
Maybe she hasn't played them yet, in which case it's wasted.
Oh.
That's what Steam does to you. It's like, it's such a deal, I've got to buy it. I'll never get to it.
Oh, no. Well,
Yeah.
as soon as she plays them, it'll be worth it.
That'll be worthwhile.
Yes.
And CDI Arcade also brings up something that we talked about briefly before. He says Funko, he or she says, CDI Arcade, they say Funko is the next Beanie Baby style product. They'll crash too. We've talked about that before. It's like, I just feel like there's so many of them. I don't really get the Funko thing. I think there's
They
just
could
way too many
crash,
for me, maybe.
But they don't have far to go because they're not really, people collect them. Well, again,
There's not a secondary market.
I'm willing here where I'm like, as I speak, I'm contradicting what I'm thinking, but there certainly are some that are incredibly valuable and rare to get.
Yeah, I remember
But as
you
you
told us
said,
about one.
there's such a multitude of available ones that you can collect a whole bunch that you want, and you're never going to pay more than, $8, $10, $12 tops for one. They're not, and although these days, now that I'm thinking about it, some of them do sell in the protector already, I guess, assuming they're collectors. So
Yeah.
At the conventions, I do see, supposedly, but some of the rarer ones that go for, double digits.
yeah.
I don't know enough about the market to know whether they're just marking it up because they're at a convention. And often, if the celebrity's there that can sign it, that has the related,
that boosts
IP,
it,
then they can get away with charging.
Yeah.
I think what happens really is that Funko does so many deals with so many different manufacturers and distributors that you have Target exclusives and Walmart exclusives and Comic-Con exclusives. And those are the ones that become really more valuable. Or if you have a set of like, there are 12 in my Wreck-It Ralph collection. The guy they didn't make as many of, he becomes more valuable because people trying to fill that collection, the definition of everything, if they have to have the lesser characters, they cost more because they didn't make as many.